Hi there, welcome back to my videos on edge-to-edge designs. This was the design that we did on our first video. I just wanted to make sure that people were aware of a couple of things. First of all, how to make sure that your nodes are showing so that you know where your start and stop nodes are. That's in Preferences, and what you need to do is select for all objects when selected. That will show you where your stop and start points are, and that's really important when you're trying to figure out design repeats. So, the other thing that I wanted to mention is that I chose a 12-inch path or a 12-inch design area by default, but now that we see that our design will stitch out with in roughly 10 inches, I would then go back up and change my element size to close to the 10-inch mark. And now I would select the whole thing, all the designs, and choose Center and Design Area. Oh, unfortunately, that's not what we're supposed to do. Clicking Undo, choose all of the designs and group it, and then center it in the design area. And there we go. Now when we go to save the pattern, we know it fits, there's no problem. Okay, so I am going to delete this now, and we're going to look at some different designs. Unfortunately, sometimes my keyboard doesn't respond too well. Alright, so starting from scratch again, other designs that we can look at are kind of a little bit more creative designs. If you're looking at this one, which is also from One Song Needle Arts, it's an edge-to-edge design, but it's triangles. So if we scooch that up here and flip it, we can actually see that this design stitches out from left to right, and we can do an encore with it. And this is just going to give you a really quick idea that one wouldn't normally think of this as being an edge-to-edge design, but if you joined it, as we did with the last tutorial. There we go. Sometimes double clicking works as well rather than dragging. And zoom back out again. And you can see that this is now one design. If you look over in your film strip, it's one group. We're just going to select it. And what you can choose to do here is what we kind of did with the last one, is we're going to duplicate it. And now we can flip this design and we have a pretty nice edge-to-edge. So that's one example. We're starting at the left, we're going to the right, it will stop here, and then we need to flip this both horizontally and vertically. And there we go, it stops at the right, it'll pause, wait for you, and then it'll go back down to here and stitch out in the other direction. So that's a really kind of a quickie way that you can do edge to edge with a mid-arm machine if you don't have a long arm. So that's kind of the first thing that we can look at. Now I'm going to select it and delete these guys. Once again, my keyboard's not working great. Let me just pause this until I got it figured out. Okay, technical issues resolved temporarily. I'm just looking at some other designs that I've got in my folder here to see what kind of things you can do without actually worrying about offset. Here's another design. If you use this as a panto slash edge to edge, you can see that these aren't lining up at all. This is not a happy design in terms of what you're not going to be able to just kind of duplicate it and go. You actually do need to do a little bit of math with this one. So I'm going to do undo here. And what you can see, if I zoom in, is that the start point is not really at the edge of the design. So you need to measure how much that starts in from the edge. So let's go here and we'll get the length. And that's roughly 2¼ inches. So if we then decide that we're going to do an encore, go to the real size, we're going to have to nest that 2½, 2¼ inches, give or take a little bit. So when we do our nesting or encore, what we have to do is tell it that the gap is not 0, but minus 2.25, and let's see what happens. That's pretty good. If we zoom in, that's just about bang on. We can undo that a little bit. We've kind of overshot the mark. So if we undo, we do an encore, and let's say it's minus 2.1. Now we've undershot the mark. Do this again. The gap is minus 2.4. And there we go. It's not bad at all. What I would do at this point is just, edit nodes and just drag this guy over. Join them up. Make it one continuous design so that when you go to do your stitch out, it's not going to pause and wait for you to move over 1/4 inch or 1/8 inch. So just drag this guy over a little bit. And now if we look at the film strip, we've got one full group. And there you go. That's your first kind of basic part of nesting. This design, if you look at it, if we chose to duplicate it, it has its own nest when you choose the second design. It's probably about a 50% offset, so you don't have to worry about pulling designs too much on one side or the other side. It will do its own nesting, which is pretty nice. So that's the second part of choosing a pantograph which nests properly. Let me just pause this for a second and then we'll go back to the third part.